Welcome to Good Game, I'm Hex.
And I'm Bajo. Coming up on the show, we delve into the first bit of DLC for Dark Souls 2, Crown of the Sunken King.
Plus, we bring along a cut lunch and a compass as we try and survive our first play of the Long Dark.
Can't feel my feet.
And we delve into some fantasy hack and slash with Sacred 3.
Oh, baby. Free to crush, free to stomp.
Also this week, Goose introduces a new segment called Game Changers, dissecting ideas and mechanics that have changed the way we look at our games.
Sounds fancy. We also answer your questions at the Ask Good Game desk, and Hex, I just need to go get myself into the Dark Souls zone now, where I basically just cry into my hands for a little while. But first, can you name the game for this week? Crown of the Sunken King is the first of 3 Dark Souls 2 downloadable contents, and in this mini review I will talk about all of the boss fights and most of the enemies, but I will not spoil any of the strategies for you. However, if that kind of thing upsets you, fair spoiler warning. But then Dark Souls 2 is going to upset you anyway, so really, does it even matter? It's so good to be back in the world of Dark Souls 2, and the more I played of this game, the more I enjoyed PvPing as a pot. But also, the more I started to miss that beautiful interlocking level design of Dark Souls 1. Where one path would open up another door, and that would link back to another area. It was kind of a big giant jigsaw world. Even the DLC to the first Dark Souls was a bit like this, high concept lore mixed with good level design and fights. The world of Dark Souls 2 was still fascinating, but it wasn't quite as clever in that interlocking way. However, this DLC feels right back on track, connected and cohesive. To get to this new DLC, you need to play Dark Souls 2 for around 12 hours or so, and it's got a crumbling Aztec temple vibe. Puzzling platforms move and shake, floors are spiked, and the inhabitants themselves feel old and full of decay and toxins. Alright, let's meet the gang, who you will hate. Armoured guys with clubs, poisoned armoured guys with clubs, armoured sniper guys with swords, gear-breaking bugs, monster puppies, and Jester Thomas. What a jerk. And of course, the constant death by stupidity. But of course, with all that pain comes shinies. Ooh, twinkling titanite, petrified dragonbone. I think it's fair to say strategically these humanoid enemies are nothing we haven't seen before, but I think it's their fight setups and how they work against you within the environment that more than makes up for it. Take these 2 guys on the bridge. You can't fight them in such a narrow space very well, there just isn't enough room to get a hit in. So you have to stop and think about how to approach the fight. And that's a sign of good Souls design. There are many tough fights here which remind you that you really can't just rush in. As you traverse this zone, you'll often hear a haunting melody coming from within the walls. It's a foreboding tune that hints of some dark beauty ahead. Which is true, because it's sung by the first boss, Alana the Squalid Queen.
Let's do this. Hi. Okay, it's gonna be like that, are you? Oh dear. Well then, that went well.
Alana looks and moves just like Nashandra, the final boss of Dark Souls 2. And I think there's a parallel of sorts with their stories. They both seem to be involved in the cause for their kingdom's demise, and are thought to be fragments of Manus, Father of the Abyss, everyone's favourite giant-armed leaping ball of pain from Dark Souls 1 DLC.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Oh
no.
But it's your next battle which is truly remarkable, and perhaps why Alana was singing in the first place, to keep Sin, the slumbering dragon, at bay. Oh my, what a dragon. I think this is possibly the greatest dragon fight I've ever had in a video game. Just the way that Sin moves and tumbles and swoops, and the way he shoots fireballs and the poison, is just beautiful. Throw in some glorious Dark Souls combat and you've got one incredible fight. Once again, I won't spoil the mechanics of the fight for you, but I think this DLC reminds you how much extra health enemies get when you bring in friends to help. Sometimes it's better just to fight solo. Not the case with these guys. Grave Robber Varg and Sarah, they cause me so much trouble. It's a fantastic setup though, because you've got a tank, a rogue, and a sniper essentially, and they all want to end you. But of course, not until you've run another gauntlet of poison and petrification just to get to them. But when all is done and dusted, lies in wait the most glorious reward of them all, a beautiful flower skirt. I give Crown of the Sunken King points for mood, setup, challenge, and a glorious dragon fight. I'm giving it 9 out of 10 rubber chickens. And now here's Goose with the news. Take it away, Goose.
Industry veteran Casey Hudson has left BioWare after nearly 16 years with the developer. Hudson had a hand in many of BioWare's big titles, most notably serving as project director on Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and as director and executive producer on all 3 Mass Effect titles. In a parting letter, Hudson stated that with the company's upcoming Mass Effect and Dragon Age sequels in such good shape, now was the best time to make his departure. Crytek CEO Shivat Yerli has confirmed that staff went unpaid in the company's recent restructure. After months of scrutiny and allegations, Yerli claimed to have made the better of 2 bad decisions in postponing staff payments in order to save the company from insolvency. All staff members have now been paid, however, Crytek is still facing significant challenges in its North American studio.
The Cell program, we were in debt, you know how this works.
David Adams, head of Crytek USA and former CEO of Darksiders developer Vigil Games, has recently resigned, as have a portion of the studio's other core members. Several of the departing developers have gone on to form a new studio, Gunfire Games, and are exploring the possibility of reacquiring the Darksiders license.
So be it.
Industry legend and co-creator of Doom, John Romero, has let slip that he's working on a new shooter, his first since Daikatana in 2000. In an online podcast, Romero revealed that he was starting work on the new project and was currently working with a concept artist. And that's all the news for this week.
Thanks, Goose. The Long Dark is an upcoming first-person survival game currently in alpha. It's set in the post-apocalyptic wilderness of North America, where it's very cold and wolves are after you.
So cold in my life.
This is a crowd-funded indie game from a brand new studio, but the team behind it have some serious AAA cred. Games like Mass Effect, Saints Row, God of War, and Red Faction are just a few on their collective resumes.
I could so go another Red Faction right about now. They've also signed up some pretty big voice talents, such as ex-Solid Snake David Hayter and FemShep Jennifer Hale.
There is a full story coming in episodes later on, but this alpha just gives us a look at the sandbox survival chunk of the game. But this is by no means the full open world experience.
You play as Will Mackenzie, a bush pilot who crashed his plane due to some mysterious apocalyptic event. There's no plane wreckage or anything like that, though as we said, the story side of things is yet to come.
With each new life, you're dropped randomly into a fairly large pre-built world and left to survive as long as possible. You very quickly realise that that's not an easy task though, especially if they drop you into the middle of a blizzard at night. Yeah, thanks.
It's pretty punishing, isn't it? Everything is a ticking clock just waiting to kill you. At any given time, you could be suffering from one of a long list of ailments, including starvation.
Never thought I'd be dying from starvation.
Hypothermia.
Can't feel my hands.
Exhaustion. Dehydration.
Need a drink.
Food poisoning.
My stomach. It hurts.
Blood loss.
This is serious.
Infection. Sprains.
And don't forget being torn apart by a wolf.
Better than that.
Yes, Wolfus digestus, I believe is the medical term. Death isn't a matter of if, just when, isn't it?
Yeah, there's so many things you need to juggle just to stay alive. You really have to keep a close eye on all your vital stats, as well as how many calories you've got left to burn through.
And the more you move and the colder you are, the faster you'll burn through them, so it's tempting just to hold up in a cabin next to a fire. But of course you have to move to find supplies. Without wood to burn and food to eat, you're already dead. So it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation, and I quite like that.
Yeah, I think despite all the possible ways to die, the cold really is your biggest threat.
Damn, I'm freezing.
It's a constant foe. Even on a sunny, clear day, it's never what you'd call warm. Even huddled up next to a fire, the temperature doesn't ever get that far above zero.
It's a pretty sophisticated heat system too. As a fire burns, it slowly heats the room from the source of a flame. And things like the clothes you're wearing, wind speed, wind direction, they're all taken into account.
If you're far from shelter, you can start a fire wherever you'd like to warm up a bit. But starting a fire can actually be a bit of an ordeal. Not only do you need wood, but also matches and tinder just to get it going.
Yeah, and even with all that, you can fail making the fire in the first place, wasting all those precious fire-making materials.
Damn it.
Once you do get it going though, not only does it warm your bones, but you can use it to cook any meat you may have, or melt some snow and boil it to make some safe drinking water.
But snow isn't always so friendly. Those blizzards are harsh, aren't they?
Yeah, I know. But it's so nice when you're inside near a fire and you can hear that blizzard raging outside. It actually makes you feel kind of warm and toasty in real life.
I love how when you do find yourself stuck in a blizzard though, you literally can't see more than a few meters. There could be a hut or a shelter just ahead of you and you'd never know it. And you just know those wolves are out there and it's terrifying.
Especially when you have limited means to defend yourself. In the entire time I played this game, I only found one gun and about 5 bullets for it. Outside of that, you can use flares to keep wolves at a distance, but if they get too close, that flare isn't going to be much protection.
You can fight them off once they pounce, but even if you do get out of their grip, then you have to deal with stopping the blood loss and infection. If you don't have the first aid you need, then it's as good as a death sentence.
It does seem weird that I can't use some of the tools I already have as weapons. I already had a hatchet and a crowbar, but I can't use them to fight the wolves. The hatchet can only be used to boost your chance at foraging for wood, and the crowbar just opens locked chests. If video games have taught us anything, it's that crowbars make excellent weapons.
Absolutely. I definitely think in a survival situation you should be able to improvise more.
Yeah, for sure. I like the challenge of this game, but I think it needs more tricks and let you be more creative with the tools you already have. I just want to go in all Bear Grylls or Han Solo with a deer carcass and sleep in it to keep me toasty throughout the night.
That's disgusting, but not a bad idea. I know what you mean though. I was actually a bit surprised that there isn't any kind of crafting system. At the moment you can harvest items to get raw materials and repair other items, but that's the extent of crafting really.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to MacGyver together some tools and weapons, or maybe even build a few traps. Surviving shouldn't be easy in a game like this, but I feel like you should be able to set up a bit of a home base and become a bit more self-sufficient. Right now, you're really just prolonging the inevitable death.
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple survival scenarios and of course that story coming, but even with this little slice, I did find myself just getting lost in trying to survive this very beautiful but bleak world.
Yeah, it's a good looking game, isn't it? I quite like that cel-shaded style. It feels a bit like Telltale's Walking Dead meets Skyrim.
I think the key with these early alpha survival games is just waiting to see how they're going to implement these brutal survival techniques in the larger game.
Yeah, absolutely. They're always so hard at first, but really that's just balance yet to come. Shall we go answer some questions at the Ask Good Game desk?
Yeah, let's. Okay, well this week's question comes to us from Ventana Noctis 8000, who is in Murwillumbah, New South Wales. Hey guys, big fan of the show. I was wondering what your thoughts are on the overall lack of playable female characters in Assassin's Creed, especially in Unity. Don't know if you guys are aware or not, but one of the greatest assassins of all time was not only female, but also a key part in the French Revolution. But for some reason we're left with 4 male assassins. Why? Thanks, love the show.
Well, Ventator, it's not totally fair to say there's a lack of playable female characters in the series. There have been female options in the previous game's multiplayer, and Aveline was the main protagonist in Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation.
Elegant and deadly, just like my lady.
I think if you count all of the main games and the spin-offs, there's been 10 Assassin's games in total, with just one lead female assassin, and she was in a spin-off handheld game. So, I mean, isn't it about time we had a female lead protagonist? Especially since without the whole Desmond character, the person going into the Animus is essentially you, the gamer. So there's really no reason story-wise why it shouldn't be possible. I mean, 10 games? That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, half of them should have been female.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I mean, Desmond going back and playing a female ancestor? That'd be weird, wouldn't it? He'd be like so distracted by the fact that he'd be in the body of a woman.
It would be a unique gameplay experience, that's for sure. I do think it's a tad unfair to paint Ubisoft as a villain, though. I can think of loads of game series that have never once had a lead female character, so at least they are trying where others are not. Really, though, gender equality is a much broader issue with games in general, rather than something specifically at fault with the Assassin's Creed series. There is too much generic white guy protagonist syndrome, Hex.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but I think in Unity's case, it's a particularly easy target to call out since, as Ventata said, one of history's greatest assassins was a woman during the French Revolution, so it just feels like a bit of a missed opportunity, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think a large part of why people are upset about this is actually the reason that Ubisoft gave, which was along the lines of not having enough resources to animate women. And personally, that sounds a bit weird to me. I feel like if anyone could find the resources to do that, Ubisoft probably could.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been more understanding, I think, if they'd said something like, well, our main character is a male, and the way the co-op works is to give the illusion that you are always playing as him. I mean, that makes way more sense.
Yes, and it's actually what they said, because that's how it works. But then they also said it was just too hard to do, and it would require all this extra work, which is what people latched onto. Dig up, Ubisoft.
Yeah, so it's really more of a PR blunder rather than some conscious decision to ignore women, I think. But the franchise isn't exactly going anywhere, so there's still hope for the future. Why don't we delve now into some other people's opinions with your review? So let's see what everyone thought of Valiant Hearts.
Well, it seems like pretty much everyone enjoyed it. Like Decoy 0042, who wrote, Valiant Hearts is one of the best games this year. It's incredible how the stories cross, and the end product is one of the most incredible games ever made. 10 out of 10.
Chaos Mansion 22, meanwhile, seemed to appreciate its educational potential, saying, great art, great story, I wish this was in school. 10 out of 10.
There were a few gripes out there, though, like this from Sibilicious, who wrote, beautiful, but with some jarring tonal shifts. Recommended. 9 out of 10.
And Harry was about as harsh as it got. He enjoyed it, but disagreed with our review, saying, it is a great game, but it really doesn't deserve a 10. 7.5.
And if you'd like to leave a review, you can do so via the Good Game app or on our website.
Glasses aren't real.
They're real to me if I believe it.
Destructible environments have long been perceived as mere child's play rather than a serious game mechanic, but one Red Planet revolutionary game changed all of that. Red Faction was released in 2001, and its geomod tech gave us destructive freedom like never before. We were able to blow holes in almost every surface, altering the game's landscape as well as our perception of level design. This new tech became the central theme for the game. It was even celebrated with a fancy test level for us to play in. And while its explosive use was ultimately limited, few games have tried to topple Red Faction from its throne. So why haven't more games let us destroy anything and everything in sight? Well, maybe because of the headache a destructible environment can create for developers. Give the player too much destructive power, and you begin to lose control, breaking the game's narrative and direction in the process. Obvious exceptions to this are sandbox-style games. These revel in the chaos that complete destruction provides, but in doing so, sacrifice some of the focus required to tell great stories. Even though Red Faction broke through the walls of linear design, environmental destruction in games still feels like an afterthought, often with frustrating results. From impenetrable doors to scenery that should shatter, but somehow stand strong, we find ourselves craving a finer, more accurate level of destructive detail. Today, we may be some way off recapturing that same groundbreaking feeling we got back on Mars in 2001. But hopefully soon, our expectations can once again be blown away.
Thanks, Goose. Well, the Sacred series has been around for about 10 years, but now with a new developer, the formula's had a bit of a shake-up with this new release.
Yes, Sacred 3 is a sequel in name only. Abandoning the exploration and roleplay elements of its forebearers, it now focuses on hack and slash and isometric action.
The situation is dire. Emperor Zane seeks to slake his thirst for revenge with the heart of Ankaria. A small group of heroes must thus stand against an entire empire. The time for resistance is now!
Thank the gods. You really are good at this. You know that?
The setup is wacky to the point of being convoluted.
Yeah, what I managed to gather is that the story takes place in Ankaria, a land which has fallen under siege from a tyrant named Zane, Lord of the Ashen Empire and all-round nasty guy.
Not a very threatening name, is it? Zane.
Yeah, I just think of Billy Zane, who I guess was kind of menacing in Titanic.
Well, the Zane of this story seeks to steal the heart of Ankaria to help him exact his vengeance upon the world. I'm still not entirely sure what the heart of Ankaria is, but we're going to have to stop him getting it.
Indeed.
I've seen it. It's as big as my head.
There are 4 preset characters to choose from, each with their own little backstory. There's a seafaring barbarian, an angelic paladin or an ill-equipped spear wielder for your melee classes, and a calm and collected bowman if you're after a ranged experience. There's also Day 1 DLC, which gives you access to a 5th character, which is a brooding blood mage.
Yes, now Day 1 DLC doesn't really bother me that much anymore, because it's usually like some skin of a character or maybe a specific weapon, but in this case, it's pretty much the hero of the trailer. So to put him behind a paywall is a bit of a jerk move.
Yeah, it's poor form, isn't it? Once you've selected a character, you're sent to the level select screen, which is beautifully designed. It gives you an overview of the world, and as you complete missions, you wipe out the red markers, which signifies that you've reclaimed that land. It's a nice touch.
The levels themselves are a mix of campaign missions which drive the story, as well as arena challenges. These are small grinding levels, such as wave modes and treasure hunts, which help to level you up and score some gold between major missions.
Yeah, it's all quite arcadey, isn't it? Your game time is broken up into little segments, so I never really felt compelled to settle in for a lengthy session.
Yeah, it's very much a quick fix hack and slash, plus all the levels are unlocked right from the start. So you can jump into a super high level mission to test your mettle. That does mean you're going to have a bad time.
Help, man.
Yeah, it's generally smarter to stick to missions that are about 1 or 2 levels above your own. As you make your way up the board, you encounter plenty of variety in the locations. Nearly every level has a unique setting and design with some stunning backdrops. It's quite pretty.
Yeah, it looks great, but those levels are just so linear. There's no freedom to explore, which means the world just feels like a whole bunch of disconnected corridors.
Well, not all RPGs need to be big, sprawling epics, Bajo.
I agree, and linear can really work for an RPG, but I just feel like the world itself still needs to feel established and cohesive, and they didn't really nail that here. Zane can have the heart for all I care.
I think my main issue with the game is the combat, and that's where it makes its biggest departure from its predecessors, I think. All of the characters play in essentially the same way. You've got a main attack, a shield breaker, a block or dodge, and your combat skills.
Early on, the combat is reasonably satisfying. Your character zips about, slashing through hordes of enemies. However, the game isn't that challenging, so after a while, it can't help but feel like you're just grinding your way through to the next level. There's just not enough reason to fight.
Yeah, I think a big part of that grindy feel comes from the lack of combos and the fact that you can only have 2 skills equipped at a time. You can spend money on upgrading gear and buying new skills, but it doesn't actually change the way in which you approach combat.
Now let's sing a song to celebrate.
Just lacks the flair of other hack and slash games, like God of War for example, which really let you mix things up. The main issue though is that there just isn't enough loot. Hack and slash veterans are no strangers to dull combat, but that's because there's always the promise of better gear somewhere down the road, something to reward you for your efforts. And this didn't really have that.
Yeah, I mean, in a game with limited combat and character customization, the loot is the only thing that gives you that sense of progression.
When you got it, you got it. But make sure you get the goodies before the next wave comes.
I really felt its absence in Sacred 3, but look, there is some fun to be had here and there.
Definitely. I enjoyed the Barbarian Slam, which deals some nice area damage. The Paladin has a cool lightning ring attack which surrounds her, and I love the execute animation. It's a nice way to move around the battlefield.
Yeah, and some of the enemies, especially the bosses, have decent AoE attacks.
Shatterjack, do your worst!
These are a little bit more fun to take on as you dodge damaged circles or telegraphed charges. But again, you know, it just doesn't mix up the combat enough to make it fulfilling.
Yeah, there is co-op, which is great, but once again, it doesn't really change the gameplay that much. Because the characters are so similar, there's no real sense of teamwork. Sure, you dish out more damage as a team, but enemy health is also slightly increased.
And down he goes.
I did have the occasional bit of lag online, but for the most part the matchmaking system is pretty smooth. However, there's no push-to-talk sensitivity activation for chat, so everyone's mic is always on. An annoying oversight.
Yeah, and there are already more than enough voices to contend with this constant barrage of freaking inane chatter from the game characters.
How do you feel about being crushed under a building? I kinda like it.
Hey, no fair. His ships are firing on the building. Go, go, go! Get out of there!
But the worst would have to be those annoying spirits yammering on.
You may keep me, if you keep me beautiful.
There are actually a number of different sword spirits you can equip. Each has its own stat buff, but unfortunately most of them are pretty unimaginative, and the best one there just happens to be a chauvinistic mage who constantly throws lines like this at you.
I love doing it with you. Freeway. I'll still respect you in the morning. Oh, baby.
Ugh, what are you giving it?
Well, I think the biggest problem with this game is that it doesn't know whether it wants to be an RPG or a hack-and-slash brawler, and that confusion just brings the whole experience down. So there is some good here, but I think it's worth 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think it's a technically sound, albeit limited action game, but you know, it's just going to disappoint fans of the series, I think, so I'm giving it 6.
What a ride! You might want to leave this to the big boys.
So did you name the game for this week? It was Warhammer 40k Dawn of War. Available on PC back in 2004, the single-player campaign took place on planet Tartarus. There were 4 playable armies you could command in this real-time strategy game: the Elite Space Marines, the Chaos Marines, the Psychic Eldars, and the Savage Orcs. And it's our Name the Game for this week because the story was written by Raphael van Lierop, the creative director behind this week's The Long Dark.
Next week on the show, we try to unlock the riddle of mind, Path to Thalamus. Oh, and just quickly, this weekend I'll be featuring in an episode of Compass, which explores how gaming can influence and guide the moral compass of gamers. And that's on ABC this Sunday at 6:30 p.m.
Well, until next time, Bajo out.
Hex out. Do you think people will think my voice sounds sexy like this?
Your germ voice.
Yeah.
Your...
I'll show you something really sexy. Ready?
What? Yeah. Are you gonna blow into it and show me?
This is legit blow.
I care very much for your well-being.
If you don't do the honk, then it doesn't get it all out.
I care about your well-being, and I want you to live a long, happy life. And I cannot wait to get away from you, you big bag of germs.